We are live now. So it might be just a little bit early. So we'll give folks a little bit, about a minute or so to get on there. We'll start yammering away about whatever we want to yammer about today.
This your party. I'm just invited to the party.
I wish you had brought some cake.
I have my drinky drink.
I have water. I'm trying to make myself drink more water. All right, it's 7 so let's get rolling. Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. This is another episode of the Ladies Lounge with Wonder Low. I am your host, Wonder Low. I am so glad to be here tonight. It's been one of those days where pain has had just a little bit too much in my time, but you know what? God is still good, and I feel pretty good this afternoon. So glad to be signing out tonight, getting a chance to talk to everybody. Excuse me, sinuses are also trying to act up. But glad to be signing on tonight to get a chance to talk to everybody and to have a wonderful guest in the studio with us. And I still say in the studio, even though we're at our houses. We're in our houses or offices when we do this, but she's still in the studio. You're in the Ladies Lounge studio, so it's the same thing. Just a few housekeeping things. If this is your first time watching, that we are on every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. I broadcast on Facebook and also broadcast on YouTube. So if you haven't liked our page yet, please go over to our Facebook page and like us. And then you can also follow us on YouTube and go and subscribe over on that side. I'm trying to build that one up. I also have a page on what's the other one? Instagram. And everything is under the Ladies Lounge Wonder Low. So look us up, subscribe to the pages, like the pages, follow us. You see a comment or a post or something that you want to comment on, please do that. Share our post, like our post, and just become part of the family. There is a Ladies Lounge women's group or ladies group. If you'd like to join that, then it's open to the public. Just go in, join, kick your feet up, get you something to drink, sit around and talk to the ladies in the group. But anyway, make sure every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock that you're signing on, because we always have an amazing guest. They always give us the best information. And they're just always as pretty as this one I have tonight. So she's had a vacation. Vacations make you look like that. Which means I need to go on one so desperately. So we're gonna just jump into the show tonight, because I want to make sure that she has enough time to talk about all of the wonderful things we're gonna cover. So if you have not noticed, tonight's show is Getting Financially Fit for Home Ownership with Anika Dixon. So let me go ahead and welcome her and her 24 years of real estate and property management experience. So thank you, Ms. Dixon, or Anika. Thank you for coming in to the Ladies Lounge this evening and sharing your experience with us. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Wonder, and your wonderful audience. I'm excited to be here. Yep, 24 years. I'm like, oh my goodness, 24 years. This is your show. You know I'm a talker, so you better tell me what you want me to talk about.
We're gonna play a little bit of leadership, but I'm not gonna lead you much, because I just want you to be able to freely talk about some of the things that we discussed earlier. So let's just give a little background on ourselves. I didn't post a bio on you, so I want you to tell the people a little bit about yourself first.
Sure. Anika Dixon. I have been, Little Rock. Wasn't originally born here. I was born in Little River County, and so around that Texarkana, Ashdown, that way. And so grew up kind of St. Francis County, Forest City, that way. Then so been here since sixth grade or so. So I'm a native. I'm a native. I am a true Arkansan. Then let's fast forward a little bit. I graduated from Hall High School. And so in 89, very glad and proud to be a Hall High warrior. And from there, as I say, I attended UCA and majored in cardiology some. And so, for those who know that, you don't get a degree in cardiology. So if any you UCA alumni are there, don't you major in cardiology. And so, but I've always, you're talking to somebody that really, I knew at about the age of 14, 15 that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I remember telling my parents that I wanted, to be, and I tell people when I tell my story, I was the neighborhood babysitting hustler. And so I babysat everybody. And there were some families in there that loved to party back in the day. And so it's interesting. because literally I've got two younger sisters, and I was able to pass on my clients to my younger sisters. And so it was amazing. It really was amazing. If I had been thinking, like my mind has halfway developed now, I would have been outsourcing my friends. I would have been outsourcing everybody. I would have had, a nanny service back in the day. And so that kind of started that spirit. But then we're talking about real estate, and we're talking about that. And so how did I get into that? Around the time that I was working in hotel management, around the time my husband and I, we were purchasing our first home. And he said, it was an interesting experience, bottom line, because at that time that was 24 years ago, everyone was represented as agents were representing the seller. And so it was kind of tough. I'm not going to lie. It was stressful. It was tough. And then soon after that, there was dual agency. And so my husband, he doesn't remember this, but I do give him credit for that. He's like, I know you've always wanted to own your own business. Have you ever thought about getting into real estate? And I'm like, And kind of the rest is history, because it's been an up, down, good, bad, ugly, but I've absolutely loved it. Right now, my main bread and butter is property management, but I am so blessed and fortunate. I have had the opportunity to now help three generations of families purchase homes.
Wow, now that's amazing.
It is amazing, because we're literally talking about the grandparents, then we're talking about the parents, and now we're talking about I'm helping millennials purchase. And so literally I am receiving referrals from millennials. I was out doing, one of our alarms went off on the rental, and the young man, I recognized his face, but he was a grown man. He was a police officer there. And so he said, he asked me my name because he was doing his police report. And he said, did you sell so-and-so a house? And it was wild, because, I think about this, and his grandmother was the one that was one of the last ones to move out of Village Square apartments that I helped. And so those are, and he's the grandson, and he's, I wasn't able to help him because I said, well, have you purchased a home? He said, I didn't. I said, well, hi, if you remember me, this, all you had to do was Google my name. Laughing out there, but still, those are the kind of stories that are absolutely, I've been so blessed. I literally have laughed with my clients at closing. Of course, I have cried with my clients at closing. It's just been wonderful experiences.
Oh, great. Now talk about the difference in, I think there's a realtor and there's talk more about what you do.
Okay, so
your professional associations.
So my professional association is as a realtor. And so what that is, that's actually one of the largest associations. It's a professional association, and you must be a real estate agent. And so we do have a code of ethics, and there are about 17 code of laws that we do. And so that's community, that's business, that is bottom line, you better handle your business, and you better know what you're doing, and you better treat your fellow man or woman with dignity and respect, and you have a fiduciary responsibility when we're handling, because we are professionals.
Now, what's the name of the real estate, the realtor association?
Now,
remember it.
Okay, so we've got the Realtors, but I'm also proud to be the 2020 through 2022 president for the Arkansas Association of Realtists. And so what that is an organization that we brought it here. We saying our community, because I'm the president for the state of Arkansas in 1959. And so when you're talking about, you think about the 50s, there was so much segregation, and there was so much, black, white, and just, the tension then. And so we, as a race of people, as African Americans, we could not become realtors. And so in New Jersey, they said, okay, well, how do we make this happen? And that's where the National Association of Real Estate Brokers came about. And so we are known as the Realtists. And so what we promote is democracy in housing, because we all know, as I'm sure your audience is varied, but as a race of Black and brown people, does democracy in housing oftentimes exist? Unfortunately, it does not. And that's where the realtors come in to make sure that democracy in housing is existing and it is being exercised.
Okay. Now, see, I didn't know that, and I think a lot of people listening would be surprised that there's a difference between a realtor and a realtist.
There
And I've
is
seen
one.
that. Yeah, I've seen
Mhm.
that, and I was like, okay, maybe it's just another name for it. But
Yes.
that's good information because if I didn't know, I'm assuming. Look, how smart folks are. If I didn't know, everybody else didn't know either.
Right, right. So yeah, so thank you for asking that
Yeah.
because I'm very proud to be the president of that association. Mhm.
Okay, that is interesting. Okay, so let's get into let's see, let's talk about money because
Money.
before I call you to help you find me a home, we
Yes.
got to get our money together. We got to get
Mhm.
our coins. We got to get our coins in order.
We gotta get
So
our coins.
get our
Yes.
coins in order first, and
Mhm.
talk about some of the things that folks need to do before they call the realtor or the
Okay. Yeah.
realtor.
Or the
Talk
real
about the coins.
one of the things that because people, the internet is unbelievable, and so it allows because studies show that 9 times out of 10, a person is going to go on the internet when they start, hoping, wishing, and dreaming about purchasing a home, and so in doing so, you need to make sure, like you said, you got those coins right, you got your money right. And so you want to get pre-approved before you even do that. Sometimes I was listening to one of the financial shows. My husband and I, we were listening to one Saturday, and they were talking about people money habits. And I thought it was so funny because it talked about the turtle. And think about a turtle. You go in. The turtle has his head out, then he goes back in. It heads out there. And people do that with their money. And so oftentimes people will say, "Okay, Anika, I want to purchase a home." I said, fantastic. Thanks so much. I'm excited. What are your credit scores? My credit score? I don't know. Well, when was the last time you looked at them? Girl, I hadn't looked at them in like 5 years. Well, I said, well, how much of a house do you think you want to purchase? Well, I've been looking on the internet and I did the math about 200,000. Well, you want to purchase a $200,000 home. Typical loans are about 30 years, and you want an investor to give you 200,000, but you won't even take the time to know what your credit score is. So you got to know what your credit score is. You got to know how much money. You got to know your debt to income ratio. You've got to know where you are. I say, okay, I need to lose weight, and I've been enjoying these cupcakes and ho-hos and everything. And so this weight didn't just, come boom overnight. And just like me losing the weight, or in my mind, it did come overnight, but just like losing the weight, it's not going to happen overnight. Your janky credit is not going to be cleaned up overnight. So you've got to know exactly where you're starting. Budget is so important. People rather be cursed out than make them do a budget. And so those are the kind of things that you've got to look at to know and be proactive versus reactive when you're going to get pre-approved. If you're needing to do some credit cleanup, then get with a team, or oftentimes you can do that yourself, but get pre-approved. Did that answer your question?
That answered my question again a little bit. But that's one of those things that when I've talked to people in the past, I do home ownership counseling.
Mm-hmm.
But I also do home foreclosure counseling at the same time.
Gosh.
So people don't get there's two sides of things. But on the pre-approved party is what I've known folks that'll come to me and say is, hey, I need some help. Well, I need to know what my credit scores are because I do want to buy a home. Okay. Let's go ahead, sit down, pull out all the information. Let's look at your credit scores. 9 times out of 10. And it's been very few. And I've done it since 2009. There are very, very, very few, maybe 3 people that when I pulled their credit, they were ready right that second. Everybody else needed some work. And like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. Well, what if I just go pay this, do this? Okay, yeah, you do need to get these things paid for, paid off, and then taken off, but you do need to do some work still. Some people don't have any credit at all. So they go through the process of creating some credit or building some, or then it's the whole thing of getting a credit card, or maybe getting, you don't want them to buy a car before they're trying to buy a house, but them to get a credit card or to get some type of small credit account just so they have a credit score. So exactly right about that. You have to make sure that credit score is where it needs to be before you. To me, I tell people, I said, here's the thing. Don't disappoint yourself because everybody wants that $250,000 house.
Right.
Your money say you can get $150,000 house. So
are you there?
Can you see me? I think you froze just a little. Uh-oh. Hopefully that'll fix itself in just a second. We were having a little bit of internet difficulties a little bit earlier tonight, so hopefully that'll Anika will be able to join us back in just a second. I think her screen froze just a little bit. So if you all will just bear with us, and I'll just go ahead and finish my statement. What I was making was that aside from just even knowing your credit scores, is then when you go to the realtor or you go to get pre-approved, you want to make sure that you're pre-approved for something you can afford. Like I said, all of us want that $250,000 home, but maybe that's not what we can afford right that second. So you might have to do something a little bit different and change the way you're thinking about, what your first home might be. Come on now. The internet has just been acting up. My computer went down earlier. I think she popped off altogether. Mine went down a little bit earlier today, and it was down for about 4 hours. So hopefully, whatever glitch he's having on that side, it'll fix itself in just a second. So if you all will bear with me, I'm not a comedian, so I can't do any kind of comedy for you, and I don't tell jokes really well. So y'all just kind of stick there until she comes back. And there she is. There she is.
I moved. I'm sorry. What happened? I moved close
like,
to the
you froze, and it was like, I was like, okay, wait a minute.
And I was still seeing it, so sorry about that. I'm back. I got a new background.
No, the internet doesn't like us today for some reason. It's just doing weird stuff. So we're fine. But we were saying about the getting pre-approved and how much house you can afford.
Right. So you do want to look at that debt to income ratio. I had someone to send me a Facebook message the other day, and he was like, Anika, how much do you think I can afford? I said, well, I don't know, what your debt is. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And so I finally said to him, because he's been sending me messages, every so often. And I said, quit being afraid. I wanted to say, quit being a turtle. But quit being afraid and just let the experts tell you where you are. Because, I said, what are your credit scores? And he said something like, I think he said 677. I'm like, okay, you've got great credit scores to get started with this. For your audience, there are, you got the FICO. And so you want to look at, the FICO, but then you got the 3 bureaus and all. And so that middle score, at least when you're trying to educate yourself, look at that middle score. And you really want that to be healthy around that 650, 670. If you're going to need some down payment assistance, you want to keep that in mind, because you do need it to be the middle score closer to that 670 or so. And so you really, really need to know, where you are.
Okay. I'm typing while you're saying it, making notes for everybody in the comments.
Oh, okay.
Know your debt to income. But yeah, that's it. The big thing that something I've run into folks in the past where they've been a little bit confused about is I'll ask, what type of debt do you have? Mm-hmm. They don't know what type of debt they have, and they don't know how much money they actually make. Now, I count every penny. So if I don't know anybody else, I know how much money I make.
Right.
So you know things down, and then, do you have a budget already in place? Have you ever looked at what it's going to cost to be a homeowner? Do you look at the maintenance? Have you looked at insurance? Have you looked at a lot of those things? But I try to get people in the mindset of, this is a huge purchase. Mm-hmm. You want to have everything that you can lined up, because surprises at this point are not a good thing. But making sure that they know their debt to income, how much a house they can afford before I try to make sure I never send a person to a realtor before we've gotten the money right.
Exactly.
Because it's sort of a waste of time. If that person
not sorta. It's total waste of time.
I don't want to say it.
I'm sorry. Oops, you didn't tell me the rules.
No. I didn't want to say it. I wanted you to say it.
Oh, well, you know me well enough. I was going to say that. Don't be sending your folks to me.
No. I believe in being totally prepared before you go to the next level, because like I tell them, they don't know what you can afford. And you might have a 400 credit score and you run around with a realtor. They can't help you, and that's a waste of their time and their energy. So before you even get to them, let's go in here with that 650, 700. Let's get it to where we know for a fact that when you go in, you're not going to get disappointed.
Exactly. And, even when I was reading an article not too long ago, and it was talking about the budget items that the lender isn't going to necessarily pull up, like childcare. Mm-hmm. There are things that show up on the credit scores and all. But childcare, if you're I remember we have two girls. I remember that when both of them were in early childhood or early childcare, their childcare was more than our mortgage.
Oh my God.
Yes, but you just think about it. You think how much quality childcare is now? You have to add that to your bottom line. But a lender isn't necessarily, that's not pulling up on your FICA, Mike, and the scores and everything. But if your childcare is $700-800 a month, that is a must until they're in school. And now we've got a pandemic, and you've got kids at home, and everything has changed. So how does that look now? Because you need to work, you got to pay your mortgage. So when we're talking about those foundational things, you got to look at, because your budget.
Yep.
And what you can afford, what you're comfortable with, because just because you're pre-approved for 190,000, you may only need to stay about 130, 150 because you love to travel. You love this, that, and the other. You got childcare, like we just talked about. When you got all those things on there, those are the invisible budget items that you know about.
Yep. Now that makes me think about people that are on medication. Because medication is very expensive.
It's expensive. You're right. Yes.
People student loan debt, of course, you're making student loan payments.
Right.
That comes up anyway.
That's going to be on there, but still.
Yeah. But some of those things, because even when I work with people just to do goal setting and to build a budget, I'll say write down everything you pay in a month, and they'll leave off childcare. They'll leave off medication. They'll leave off groceries, because apparently they don't eat.
Oh.
Off of gas. They leave off transportation costs, which may be what kind of maintenance you need to do for your car or whatever.
Right.
They leave off stuff that cable. What I'll see on there is gas, water, light, phone, rent right now or mortgage right now, car insurance. And I'm like, you pay more bills in a month than that.
You do. You got those ancillary charges. You got those extra charges that we have to include, no doubt. Yeah.
And if you have kids in school, I can remember when we have 4 kids. So I can remember when the last 2 were in school. Well, as a matter of fact, the youngest one. I budgeted for school. Now it's public school and it's free. But if you got a field trip every other month, or if not every month, 2 times a month, 3 times a month, extracurricular activities, they play basketball, she play volleyball, basketball, travel, all that different stuff. And I had to pay for her lunch. That was in my budget.
Yeah,
because I knew that those are things that I pay every month. And most people go, why don't you put that in your budget? Because I pay it every month. It's a bill. You have to put those things in. And that's why people to understand that, create a realistic budget. If it comes out of your money in the course of a month's time, it needs to go on your budget. So because what happens, like you said, about wanting at 190, but maybe you might need to stay around 130, is because you have some things in there that are going to float.
Yes.
And the cost is going to change a little bit. Some may fall off, especially if you got a child graduating high school, which I'm going to tell you now, that don't mean they don't cost you nothing.
That's college. Yes. So, because, you think about it, when the girls were in college, the first one, because that was the oldest is your experimental child. And because when you're all in the house together, it was 3 females in the house together. So we could share hair care products. We could share a lot of stuff. But when they go to college, they have their own things. They must have their own things. So then the youngest and I, we could still share. Then she goes off to college. So now we have to add that to the budget along with whatever extra expenses. So that's 3 quote unquote households that you're maintaining. Yes.
And that's why I tell people, make an all-inclusive budget. Because what you don't want to do is, okay, you get your house and the mortgage is $1,000 a month, but you don't put all these little things in your budget.
Right.
So what the old folks say, you robbing Peter to pay Paul. And one of the things that you don't want to suffer first, and as an insurance agent, I'll tell you first, insurance always gets cut first. People will cut insurance in a hot second. And that's like,
is this life insurance, car insurance, what insurance?
They'll seen folks drop car insurance. Because when I was full service, I've seen people drop car insurance, but life insurance will get dropped. Burial insurance gets dropped. Those things will get dropped first. And I'm going, that's the stuff you might need to keep. You can quit
Right.
smoking. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You
You're
can,
right.
you can calm down on going to Starbucks. I mean, those are things that you can, stop.
Yes.
But
Yes.
they'll 9 out of 10, the things that'll suffer are the things that I consider the most important things. You're either gonna come up late on your mortgage, you're gonna be late on your car note, you're gonna be late on your insurance if you don't cut it. And then you leave yourself exposed. That's a whole nother show. That's an insurance show.
My
It
goodness.
always pops into my head because I've just seen people do that.
And we're talking about budget.
Yeah.
And and people need to consider this. We don't want to freak them out or scare them, but these are realistic life situations and things that we need to talk about and think about.
Yep. But if when you start actually sitting down and being really serious about your budget, and you know that you have a goal, a financial goal, you have to have it all inclusive. You have to put down all the income you have coming in. You have to put down everything the income goes to, because again, you don't want to get your dream home and then lose it because this came up.
You don't. And then, you don't want to be embarrassed for yourself, but then it's a traumatic experience, not only for the parent or the adult, but for the children. It's a very traumatic experience. And so just start out, I always tell my buyers, no matter your pre-approval amount, it's always a blessing. It is always a blessing because there are so many people that were not able to get pre-approved for that amount. So do something as smart as you can with that opportunity.
Now, I know one of the things that when we bought our first home, the realtor told us, she was like, now just because you pre-approved for this amount don't mean you go out and buy a house for that amount, which made perfect sense. Because when you start actually looking at what you actually can afford and what you actually what you want and what you actually can afford are two different things.
Right. Or what's smart for you to afford.
Exactly. Yeah. And I tell folks, I understand. I want a $300,000 house too. I don't want a $300,000 house note though.
Mortgage. Yes, I'm with you. Yes.
Because I'm gonna tell you now, I am not paying mortgage out of Social Security. I just refuse. Not gonna do it.
That's real talk. It really is. It is. Anthony and I, we purchased another home last year, and I was my own real estate agent. Lord have mercy. I have a whole nother respect. I have a whole nother love.
Did you give me a hard time?
At times. Well, and because you know what, talking about the budget, my husband, he was just like, what the AG double hockey sticks are you doing? And I'm like, because I don't want to be house poor. I want to still, I don't have grandkids. And if and when I do, I want to be able to spoil them. And I want to be able to travel. And I want to be able to do this, that, and other. And I'm like, And the patience and the perseverance, it paid off. I mean, oh my goodness. Yes, it was like, because the loan officer was like, okay, how much do y'all want to buy? And I'm like, how much can we afford? She's like, probably quite a bit of what you want. And tell me what I'm like, I ain't listening to that mess. So thank you for the blessing. We're going to be smart about this. And we really were. We found the things that we were wanting. The house was older, and it's interesting. And I don't want to make this all churchy, but it's interesting. You slow down and you just listen to the Holy Spirit, but you have to be smart about it, because I've had buyers to say, okay, I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, a 2-car garage. I want this. And because I asked, what's your grocery list? So then I take you to the houses that have your grocery list. And then I'm thinking, okay, I done shown you 10 houses, 12 houses that have your grocery list, and you're not picking one. Well, they want to give me their sermon. And I'm like, you know something, I don't know what kind of Holy Spirit you following, but and I'm like, so then I start thinking, okay, what you want? You want the Holy Spirit to trip you over the threshold in the house, then you sue the seller, and then you get the house for free. This is not how this works. You need to handle your business and know what you want. Have your grocery list, have your money right, and be realistic and go for it. Just go for it, because you're going to sit here, people say, oh, I don't know if I want to be here and I don't want this. And I'm like, you've been saying that for 7 years. You could have been, then your mortgage is on, you got 23 years left now on your 30-year mortgage, because you've been talking about, you didn't know you're going to be here or not. Okay, I'm going to stay focused.
I agree with that. Now, I'm that person to see. I probably would have drove you slightly crazy because I shop for kitchens.
No,
I'm
I
not
agree
joking.
with that.
I
No,
shop for kitchens.
yeah, because oftentimes there are great pictures.
Mhm.
Technology has advanced. So, and a picture, that kitchen, that's an easy picture to take for the most part, unless
Mhm.
there are some, because I've had some ladies, like I cooked on a gas stove for, 20 some years. And so
Mm.
the home that we purchased is the electric stove. Oh my goodness. You got to do what you got to do until there's gas in the house, but you got to do what you got to do
Yeah.
until you pay for the upgrade and do it. And so, yes, have I burnt some stuff? Yep. Oh,
Well, it just got burnt.
but it's a nice kitchen.
Well, there you go. But my thing is, I'm telling you now, I have this thing about curb appeal.
Yes.
The house has to have a nice face. I know that
Okay.
sounds weird to most people. When you walk up to it, it has to have a face. And it
Yes,
has
I
to have a
get
nice
it.
something about
Yes.
the appearance outside.
Yes.
I prefer always what is the name? Ranch style houses.
You like ranch.
Yes.
Okay.
We got a
Mhm.
two-story
There
house.
are quite a few of those.
Yep.
Mhm.
We got two-story houses. But the first one we bought was a two-story house, and all of us fell down the stairs several times.
That's
That's why we moved. I'm sorry. I
okay.
fell down the stairs at 6 o'clock in the morning one day. I heard all day long. I was like, I'm done. Let's go. Let's move
What were
on.
you doing the night before?
Well, that's not your business, but anyway,
I was saying, like, did you have a beverage or something? Okay.
I may or may not have.
All righty then. Next subject.
But anyway, I fell down the stairs. I was mad the rest of the day because I fell down the stairs. So it
You
wasn't.
read it yourself?
Yeah, I was just upset, man. I was like, this is why I don't need a house with stairs in it. And then I'm one of those people that think strange. My thing is like, I want to get old in this house because I'll never go back upstairs again.
But you do have to think about it.
Yeah.
You no, seriously. Because here, Anthony has reached 50. I haven't yet. But those are the kind of things we were thinking about. And but even when I have, as I say, a maturing in age client, you let me know if you want stairs or not. I don't care what you want. I really don't care what you want because I'm here. You're the boss. Seriously. I always tell my clients and customers, you are the boss. Whatever you tell me you want, I'm going to listen to you and we're going to take it from there. And so if you want 500 sets of stairs, I'll see if we can find it. If you want 0 stairs, then that's a bit easier than 500 sets of stairs. But I get it. And we do have to think about those things because you don't know how long you may be in the house. The goal may be 7 to 10 years, but then you end up being there 20, or you're there forever because you love the home, and that's okay too. But if you're buying something different, you do have to think about, okay, how may my life look in the next 5, 10, 5, 7, 10 years. So yeah,
I wasn't trying to be 75 climbing stairs. I was like, I'm just gonna move everything. Let me tell you how bad it got after I fell the first time.
Oh God!
When I get up in the morning, no joke, I do everything I need to do upstairs.
Right.
I have a clothes basket, my shoes, another change, my purse. Everything I thought I needed for the day, I put in my laundry basket. And when I went downstairs, I did not go back up until nighttime.
Yeah, it was time for me to do
I'm not really getting the full.
That was traumatic for you. Yeah, that was traumatic. So I understand that. Yeah.
So I was like, we got to get something flat. I can do it. But anyway, no, we've been joking about that. But anyway, back to the money side. So talk about what happens when you go in to get pre-approved and give people a little bit of idea of what happens from the realtor standpoint. And then I think I'm saying it backwards, but just talk about the pre-approval process. That might help folks.
Okay, so you go in the pre-approval process, they're going to need, documentation, because sometimes people are going online, and when they're going online, I'm not going to name any companies, but when you're doing online and you say you've been pre-approved online, I want to see your paperwork. I want to see your pre-qualification letter. If you don't have a pre-qualification letter, then that's a red flag for me, because then I'm going to ask you, did they verify your income? Did they verify, your do a verification of rent or a verification, your current mortgage. What exactly did they do? Well, they just asked me how much I made, and they told me this is what we're looking at. You're not pre-approved. Nope. We need to get you. And so this is where, because I've been doing it for 24 years, I've got people that we literally have been in the business together. We've all grown up together in this business. And so I do like and appreciate the relationships that I have. I want your audience to know that just because you call me and I send you to one of my lending team members, there's still, just like, I always think HIPAA, when I go to the doctor office, you cannot share stuff with just anybody. Yeah. Keep in mind, your audience needs to keep that in mind also. You can be approved for $500,000, but you tell me you only want to spend $130,000. I'm perfectly fine. I don't need to know your full pre-approval amount. And so understand that your loan officer is like your doctor with that lending part of it. It really is like your doctor. And so there's that confidentiality. I also want to let your audience know that when we break it down, I did this years ago. In an average transaction, there are about 17 to 20 people involved in order to get you closed. And so we've got your agent, you got your broker, you got the other agent and broker if there's someone else that's involved. You have your loan officer, you have your processor, then you got your home inspector, you got your appraisal, you got the title company that's involved, you got their attorney, you got the tax people that's involved with that. You've got did I say the appraisal, home inspection? You've got literally in front and behind the scenes, you got about 17 plus people that are involved in this process. So buyers, I always say, and I've been saying it for years, my job is to make this process as stressless for you as possible. And so buyers have oftentimes said, oh man, that was so easy, Anika. I'm gonna get my real estate license. You do that, baby. You do that. Come on. Join the family. And then they get into it. And they're like, what the heck? This mess is hard. Oh my God, you make this look so easy. Why didn't you tell me the truth? Because you weren't going to listen to me. You like that little child that said, you're going to get burned. Wonder, you're going to get burned if you get next to her. You're going to get burned. And no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I got burned. Why didn't you tell me it was going to be that hot? And so, and then there are some people, I should have made it easy for you. I should have made it easy. And so when you're talking about from the realtor standpoint, you got to be able to trust your realtor. There's paperwork, there's an exclusive buyer agency agreement. Sometimes people don't like, signing paperwork in the beginning. But what that does for a realtor in that relationship, it says, I am going to be loyal to you. You're going to be loyal to me. And so when you're going to that open house and you're looking at, that agent is going to say, or should say, are you working with an agent? Yes, I'm working with Anika Dixon with Goss Management and Realty. And so they're like, oh, okay, well, enjoy the house. Have Anika to give me a call if you're interested. You want to come back and see it. And so that helps the process right there. Then you got your offer. So once you find your dream home for the moment, or dream home, whatever it is, typically the buyers are closing in about 30, if they've got, depending on some down payment assistance program, then it may be about 45 days because we still have COVID. So you're typically closing in about 30 to 45 days. So that also, so you want to keep in mind, if you're in a lease right now and your lease doesn't end until March of 2021, there's no point, unless you choose to do a buyout or something, there's no point in you getting pre-approved and we start looking at houses now, because no seller is going to hold that house on the market. What are we talking? 6 months, 7 months? They're not going to hold it. When a seller is placing a house on the market, they're typically ready to sell, and they're ready to sell in 30 days or so. And so, your audience will need to keep that in mind. And so offer is accepted. You've got 5 days to get the appraisal. So that's where getting pre-approved is very important. So 5 days to get your appraisal, 10 days to get your home inspected. I always recommend to the buyers, get your home inspection done within 3 to 5 days, because just in case there's a hiccup, you can't negotiate well with the seller or something, then that gives you an opportunity to back out the deal if you need to do that. And before you pay for the appraisal, because you're going to have to pay for the home inspection the day that the home inspection inspection takes place. Then you got the appraisal you're going to pay the lender for. Then you got 10 days to go in and secure your insurance. That's not paying for your insurance, but that is securing your insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're moving toward, so once the repairs are done, closing is taking place, you should have the opportunity to go in and do a final inspection, make sure that the house is still, what the last time you saw it, everything, 4 walls are up, everything is good, it's still the same house. And then you're ready to go to closing. The possession you do not become the final new homeowner until both parties have closed and the executed and acknowledged deed has been signed off by all parties that are involved.
Okay. Now let's back up just a second and talk about pre-qualifying and pre-approval. And I think a lot of people think that when they go online and they get that little message you were talking about, that they're pre-approved. No, you're actually pre-qualified. And all it means is that you meet the financial criteria for somebody to eventually be approved. Because I've had folks that come to me, well, I got pre-qualified online. I'm like, well, how did you do that? And it did the same thing. It's because you can go on and can't say names of things, but you know that there are several different financial tools that you can use online that'll tell you, well, you can qualify for this amount, where you can get this amount. Well, that's a pre-qualification. That's just based on me putting in what my income is, where I'm, the area I may live in might be a zip code or some other things that pre-qualify you, for a mortgage, but it doesn't approve you for a mortgage. You don't get approved until you actually go to the lender and you provide the financial background, you provide the financial paperwork, the check stubs and the tax returns and all this other stuff, and the credit is pulled. That's when you get your pre-approval. Because
honestly, now even lenders, a lot of lenders are doing just a pre-qualification because you got to go through, you got to get an accepted offer. You got to get the property appraised. It's got to go in underwriting. Is really when it is basically a slam dunk.
Wow.
Yes, because if I were to go to a lending institute today, they're going to say, Anika C. Dixon has been pre-qualified. Okay. I've given them all of my tax stuff. I've given them everything that they want, but I don't have a property. It has not been appraised. It is not done. Then if you're doing down payment assistance through AFA or any of those organizations, they're going to do their inspection. And so when we're talking about literally 17 plus people involved in these processes, everybody is having to touch this at any given time. The title company, they're involved in it, but not as much from that standpoint. But when you're talking about pre-qualified versus pre-approval, you got steps to do with that.
Oh, wow. Now, see, that's something I didn't know because the way I was looking at it, or I guess, the way I've done it in the past was, that whole getting pre-approved as opposed to getting pre-qualified thing. But yeah, and you're right, because most of the time I'm trying to think back when we bought, we did go through a pre-qualification first. That was the income statements, tax returns, different stuff that we need to turn in first. So yeah, that makes plenty of sense. Okay. So then let's talk about what are some of the things from a realtor standpoint. You talk about what you do with a client and what service do you offer the client. So if I came to you and said I'm ready to buy a house.
Okay. Okay, so I am going to, of course, have you been pre-approved? Because I'm always going to ask that first. I'm also going to ask, are you working with an agent? Because if they say they're working with an agent, then I'm saying, okay, well, do you have paperwork? Have you signed an exclusive agency agreement and all? So, I'm asking the questions. I've been doing this too long to not act like I don't know what I'm doing. And so then I'm going to get a profile for them or from them. See, what are you wanting? What's on your grocery list? Who's in your household? Do you need to be near schools? Because if you have school-age children, is that important? Because we don't want them to be even more traumatized. We want them to be comfortable where they are, so do we have to think about things like that? Who all is on the loan? Who are the decision makers? Because just because it is two adults that have been looking at a house, that does not mean that both adults have gotten secured the bank, secured the pocketbook. Okay. But so that's a whole nother story too. But who are the decision makers? Because I want to know that because when we start looking at houses, I don't want a situation where you guys are working opposite shifts. I got to show him, so and so this and then this. Let's get together, because also it may be a property that this is what you wanted and needed. Both of you need to look at it, because the market is so crazy right now, especially that 175 to 225. Oh my goodness. People are putting higher bids in. People are, a house could be on the market for an hour and boom, boom, boom. It's already been shown 4 times in 1 hour. And I am not over exaggerating. And so you've got to be ready. It's no plan here. And so those are the kind of things I'm educated, and I'm walking my clients through the process. So once they find out, and I say we, because I'm always going to give my opinion. My buyers are so funny because, if you didn't know that, I will talk. I can talk to a stop sign. And so I'll go and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is so nice. And then if I'm quiet, they're like, I don't want to look at this. Come on. Yeah. You don't like this house. I'm like, this isn't my house. They're like, no, you quiet. Come on. We don't like it.
And so I would think something was wrong if I were with you and you got real quiet. I'm like, something wrong.
Yes, it's so funny.
It's haunted or something.
Well, sometimes it may be something that they just fell in love with. And I'm thinking, this is totally different from what we've been looking at and what you told me on your grocery list or your profile. And so, it's so funny. I have so many great stories. And so then we're submitting the offer. And if it's a hot one, then this is where my seasoned negotiating understanding skills come in. Because if it's hot, so here it is, 7:45. If this house is a hottie, we may give the seller until 12 noon tomorrow. And my buyers are like, oh, is that enough time? I'm like, they better be glad I didn't put 12 midnight tonight. Because what they do,
make a decision quickly. Yeah.
Well, no, what it does, Wonder, it allows other offers to come in. Okay. So the more time you give the seller, it gives the seller more opportunity to negotiate and see who the highest bidder is. And so once you seal that deal and you make it happen, because then you got to think about, okay, with the deal. So you're thinking about, because your question was, how do I, what am I negotiating, or how do I help the buyer? So you're looking at, does the seller need to pay any of your closing costs? Are we going to ask for a home warranty? What's your closing date? Do you have another home in New Mexico that you have that sale that's contingent upon you purchasing this home? And so those are the kind of things that I should be asking, or your agent should be asking you. And if they're not, then you kind of need to side eye them, because they've got to make this happen for you right the first time. You may not have room to go back and correct it because of the hiccups. And so keep those things in mind. So then I'm like submitting information once the offer is accepted, submitting it to your loan officer and their team, submitting it to the title company, making sure that the home inspection is done timely, making sure that the dates are done. I've been saying for years, I am the conductor of the orchestra, and I have my mini batons, and I'm going doo, 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 and just making it happen. Because if I don't, and I'm not, being aggressive, and I'm letting agents know, I've been doing this too long, I'm going to try to make sure that, we make this deal happen. I'm not sitting here wasting time, because this is what I do. This is my main bread and butter. And I've been having a saying that, in sales, you do not eat what you do not kill. So we're going to be hungry. We're going to be hungry if ain't no killing going on.
You see, if somebody just to you, you're talking about killing, they're like, what kind of show is this? What is
this? What is this? An abomination?
I kill people. What is she talking about?
Well, they should have chimed in earlier, so
they know. Came on in the beginning. See, you know what it's about. But that's true. As a salesperson myself, I know that if I don't sell it, I don't eat. I mean, you gotta do. You gotta be aggressive. You gotta be aggressive sometimes, and that's weird because I'm not necessarily an aggressive person, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Okay, so we got about roughly 10 minutes. So now I got to ask you a fun question has nothing to do with this. Okay. If you were not a realtor and had a realtist, what would you be doing?
Gosh, you know, I would either be a business professor, at like a local college or HBCUs and all, because I really do have a passion for business. I have a passion for just making sure if you've got some hopes, goals, and dreams, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship, how do we make this happen? How do we make this happen? Is it realistic? Let's see, let's look at the good, bad, and ugly, because there's a book, E-Myth Revisited. If you haven't read that, or your listeners haven't read that, or your viewers haven't read it, it's one that I've read about 3 times. And it talks about the mental and physical roller coaster of owning a business. And it's crazy as heck. It really is. And so that's what I would do. Or I would have, and I'm still thinking about doing this now before I turn 50, a nonprofit that helps post-incarcerated mothers and their families. And so, because that's a passion of mine, along with aged out of foster care youth and preventing their homelessness, because they are our next homeless population and or prison population, unfortunately. So those are the things that I'll share with the audience. I got some other things, but I'm not going to share with the audience. I don't want y'all to.
That's funny, because we do have one of those. We have a similar thing as a kid. Now I don't know. Now this also will show you how big of a nerd I am. No, I am. I'm still am.
Oh, I'm telling me some was all
I still am. I've always had a business. My first business started when I was 6. I was a babysitter and a baker. Does that sound weird?
You said a baker, B-A-K-E-R? Oh, yeah. Cool.
So about when I was 6 years old, my grandmother on my mother's side would just buy flour, cake, whatever, and have it in the kitchen. And she was like, okay, what do you want to make this weekend? Because we wanted to be on the weekends. And I go in there, and she showed me how to make a cake from scratch one time. And after that, I just kept baking. And then I started making lemon meringue pies and all these different kind of pies. So except by the time I was 7, I was actually selling them to the neighborhood ladies. So when I went to her house on Friday evening, she would have a list for me of what I had to bake. And I would bake it, and they paid me for them. So at 7 years old, I had coins in my house.
Yes.
I would deliver, of course, but I would bake them. I probably tell people I probably was the only 7-year-old that knew what cream of tartar was.
That is wild. And so what have you done with that?
A little bit. Now, I've been pandemic baking since we've been enclosed, and I really got to stop it because I'm starting to see pandemic pounds. But
I haven't tried any of your baking.
Well, would you like to try some of my baking?
Yes, I would.
I would send you a list of what I bake. I have a whole little menu. Now, have you ever noticed my cafe?
Yes, I have.
I have a friend that went off on me because she couldn't Google it. I was like, yes, it's in my kitchen. She was like, where's Mayrose's Cafe? I've been up all night long. We were in here Googling it. I cannot find it. I cannot stand you. I was like, it's my kitchen. She was like, no, because one of those plates that you fixed was a fish dinner and it was on a restaurant plate. And I was like, no, it's my plate. It's in my kitchen.
So you're just teasing us. You're just teasing us.
Exactly. She was like, why would you post that knowing we couldn't get no food? I was like, if you call me when I'm cooking, I'll give you a plate. I'm not mean.
But we don't know when you're cooking.
How
do we know when you're cooking?
I'm not supposed to tell you when I'm cooking. I don't even tell people to show up in my house talking about what you cooking.
Yes, we would. Knock, knock, knock. Ding dong, ding dong.
I'll tell you after the fact. One of my cousins was like, you, I can't stand you, cuz. I said, what I do now? He said, you cook all that good looking food and you post it. You'll never call nobody to come over here.
Oh, so you stingy with your bacon. Oh, okay.
I'm not stingy.
Oh, okay.
When I bake again, I will make sure you get some.
Thank you. Audience, you heard her.
I promised. I will make sure you get some bacon. But here lately, it's been cakes and pies and cookies, and I don't know. I've always done sweet stuff.
That's
I cook anything else, but I love baking. It kind of relaxes me. It clears my mind. If I'm thinking about something or something is bothering me, I can go in there and make you 5 dozen cookies.
But it's therapeutic, but gosh, it's such a business because baking is an art. Like I have to have my mind right. And I can bake, fairly well at times, but my mind has to be right. And what's interesting about that, I cannot bake at night. It must have been something when I was growing up because it'll put me to sleep. Like I make pretty mean pecan pies, and my family is like, "Don't you make no pecan pie at 7, 8 o'clock at night because you're gonna go to sleep, and we're gonna get the burnt one, and then you're gonna wake up in the morning, and you're gonna
get the burnt one."
Yeah, they already know they're gonna get the burnt one. I'm like, no, you won't. And so I'll wake up like Thanksgiving, Christmas. I may have 8 to 10 plus orders of pecan pies. But I have to wake up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning in order to get those because I want them pretty, I want them perfect, and I don't want my family to have to eat the burnt one.
Now, see, I had my grandmother on my dad's side made these biscuits. Oh my God. They were like the best biscuits in the entire world, and none of us could really duplicate her recipe.
Oh.
I have been playing with it. I got it.
Oh,
honey.
She blew that biscuit spirit on you finally.
I had recipe. I was following the recipe, and she was like, "No, that's not enough butter." I put what changed everything. Just a half a stick of butter.
Yes, it's a simple thing.
Oh my God, these things.
It is a simple. I remember one of my daughters did a science fair project, and it was talking about we just baked a cake and how all those ingredients work together, because if you don't have the proper ingredients in the proper amount, your cake isn't gonna come full circle. And so she won first place with her science fair project.
My first blue ribbon was in Gould, Arkansas. I was in the 4th or 5th grade, and we were in 4-H. And I went over to the 4-H meeting, and I didn't know it was a competition that day. And Miss Stella Bailey, I love that woman. She was like, "When you know how to bake a cake, go home." I ran back to my grandma's house, baked a chocolate cake, made from scratch, and made the frosting from scratch. Ran through the trail holding a cake in my hand, and I got back just in time to enter my little cake in, and I got my first blue ribbon.
I love it.
I did not believe that somebody I want to say I was in the 4th grade. They could not believe that a kid made this cake.
So why haven't you ever started a bakery?
Because I had a whole other life and a whole other world and 17 other things going on. And
Okay. I'll leave you alone.
No. I might need that push. People keep going, "So when are you going to start catering?" And I would love to do catering, but I want to do intimate meals. I wouldn't want to do like huge things. I don't want to cook for 200 people.
There is a huge for that.
Yeah, that would be nice, but I would like to do intimate meals and do desserts and stuff like that on a smaller scale, because I think sometimes when you have it too large, the flavor gets mixed up.
I agree.
Like in smaller batches. So
I'm with you on that. My youngest sister can cook large meals, but I'm the queen of small meals. Plus, I don't like throwing away and wasting food.
Exactly. Now, I cooked for years with 6 of us in the house. So I don't know how to cook a small amount.
Oh,
I actually had to teach myself how not to cook for 10 people.
Yes.
Because if you think about it, if I cook for 6 people, technically I'm cooking for 12.
Right.
I want everybody to have second servings.
Sure.
So I double everything. So for 20 whatever years, I cooked for 12 people, might as well say. And Thanksgiving and Christmas, sometimes we would have over 20 people in the house. Gosh, so I cook for large, groups, but I would rather do small family dinners and do it that way. So that might be something else, and about give me a little time.
Okay.
I get it. Look, I get it together.
All right.
But it's so amazing. Now, the other thing you said about the professor, I told you I was a nerd as a kid. I always wanted to be a college professor.
Yeah.
Yep. And I realized one day they only talk about 3 different things: money. Money, health, and entrepreneurship, business. That's all I talk about.
Is it?
That's okay. I realized that if I'm not doing something dealing with money, if it's either credit counseling and financial, or doing insurance, or I'm teaching somebody else how to start a business and how to get through all that stuff, or let's talk about your health. As I do a lot of stuff on heart health, and now I work for cancer. So I only have 3 things. And my 4th one that I love is the cooking part.
Gosh, I love it. I love it.
We must, if you actually did every business that popped into your head, oh my God, we'd have 17 businesses.
Well, you're right. You're right. And you wouldn't we wouldn't master anything. We wouldn't be able to master anything. And so I think that to be able to hone in, I have learned that. The only other kind of side business I did, because you said, so I talk entrepreneurship, I can talk business, but I also enjoy, because I was a passion party consultant. And I love that. And so that's one of the other that I do, especially couples and their sexuality and all. And because I've actually thought about getting back into that business as something that's fun and to the side, because just think how much money I could have made during the pandemic.
Okay, that's going to be a whole nother show.
Did you just blush on me?
Did I? That's a whole nother show. You caught me off guard with it. That's
Well, you were talking about your passions, so I talked about my passion.
We have to have a conversation. I think you actually did I got warm.
Turn on your ceiling fan.
And I don't get shocked. I mean, I'm one of those folks that normally you can't really shock me. You just got me. Yeah, we were talking a little bit over an hour. And I know that they're going, this was about money and homeownership. What you talking about now? We have probably confused several people when they watch the replay or they are watching it live. They're going, "Ooh, I gotta wait a minute." And she talking about.
No, they're gonna want us to talk again.
We will talk again, and we will talk about passion during the pandemic. That's gonna be the show.
Ooh, I like it.
We'll talk about that because you know what? That's a woman topic, and hey, it's a whole conversation.
It really is. Real talk. It really is, or it needs to be. So, hey, I'm on board. Let me know.
All right, I sure will. Well, thank you all for tuning in. I know we went over an hour, but I was having fun. I'm so sorry. Thank you all for tuning in for another episode of the Ladies Lounge with Wonder Low. Like I said at the beginning of the show, if you tuned in, I'm Wonder Low. Join us here every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. on Facebook and on YouTube, Central Time. Make sure that you go out and like our pages on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow us on all three of them. Subscribe to whichever ones. But make sure next week you tune in because my guest will be Miss Kamisha Coleman. Now, Kamisha is an expert on self-esteem for women. And she's written some amazing books. So you can find her also on Facebook. Go out and find her. Like her page. Follow her. And also, make sure that if you can, get a copy of her book. But join us next Tuesday, 7 o'clock here in the Ladies Lounge with Wonder Low. I appreciate you all tuning in every week. I have immensely enjoyed this show. She has made me laugh, and she made me little. But thank you so much, Anika. I do appreciate you. And we will definitely be in touch, and we're going to do that show on Passion Pandemic because, hey, we're ladies and we need to be talking about everything. You know, we talk about everything anyway. So thank you all again for tuning in, and we will see y'all next week. Remember, 7 p.m. back here next week. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye.
We do that.